Hello and welcome to Coffee with Carrie, and this is a special edition today celebrating our 40th anniversary here at BCTV. So with me today I have two of the prior cable directors, Nadine Maynard and Leslie Helwig. Welcome. You guys usually weren't in front of the camera at all, so this is your debut to talk about the history of cable with us, history of our station.
Good.
Nadine, we'll start with you since you were the one that opened the station. Tell me, when did that happen?
I came to the station shortly after the franchise was signed. The franchise was signed with Booth Communications in 1983 in October. And then I received a call. I was working on a project at Ford Motor Company, Ryder producer, and I received a call from the clerk saying that they were interested in having a cable person come on board in the early days of the franchise. So I was hired in February of '84.
And this is really when cable television, really across the country, was just at its infancy, and it was starting and providing the ability for the community to be able to come into a studio and create video content.
We were definitely pioneers. Everything was new, and it was new in the schools. In those days, of course, it was PEG access, public, educational, and government. Everything was new, so we were kind of inventing as we went along.
And these are the days that it was 3/4 tape. Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Or was there something before, like reel to reel, or what was it?
Even before that, Carrie, I was hired as the cable communications coordinator. So my office was in Township Hall next to Fred Corson's and across from Dolores Little. And I just answered calls from residents who wondered what these guy wires were hanging down in their yard and what it was all about.
Because they were actually installing the cable in the rights of way at that time.
Yep, they were laying that coaxial cable all through the area, most of it aerial, some buried. So I was hired part-time to be the cable coordinator, and at the same time, township officials were going and looking at studios. We were going to Continental Cablevision, we were going to Tribune United, we were going to various studios, getting an idea, because they knew they wanted to have a vibrant community television program.
Right. So I think one of the things that you said that was really important that we should touch on a little bit is that they were installing cable in the rights of way. And so that is actually the foundation of why we get the money that we do in the township. So Leslie, do you want to, I know you spent a lot of time, I've seen a lot of old files of notes of making sure that we were getting the money that we were supposed to from the cable company. So can you talk a little bit about where does the funding come from for PEG, and why do we have it today?
There's a little line item on everyone's cable bill that will say local franchise or something like that. And that's very important. That this is a major corporation, huge national corporation, using public entities right of way. So they're using the public property, which is great, but nothing is free. And they pay the local community, which then gets turned over to what is now our cable stations.
Right. Yes.
So it keeps local media alive and going strong, and that's important to every community.
Well, and today more than ever, because I think that when you all were running the station, that there was Oakland County, or Oakland Press had its own, and Detroit Free Press, they all had their own Oakland County bureau with 20 reporters, and now it's really, there's not much left.
Not even the Birmingham eccentric. I mean, that has changed so much.
Yes.
So we just need that local media.
Right, we do. Nadine, back to you. So tell me a little bit more about how long did it take to get the building up and running, and who were some of the first people that were in the doors making some of this content? Because I know you brought some of these pictures here, and these are like local celebrities. I don't know, we've got I think, who's this?
Dutch Leonard.
Elmer Leonard was a township resident, and who else do we have
Shirley
here?
Eder was on, Orthea Barnes, who was not a resident in the community, but she was good friends with Aretha.
Is this picture you?
Yes, one of the NATOA trips that I took, we took a tour of NBC studio, so Bob and I had to get together.
Nice. Anyway, please continue.
So, anyways, back in the early days, we for for the studio for this building, of course, RFPs went out. We selected a contractor, and we selected a contractor that I knew previously who had built Continental Cablevision studio in Southfield, and he also did a lot of work at the DIA. And he worked out beautifully. Colt Weatherstone. In fact, he built our courthouse after that and some other projects here in the township. And he built the building. We had groundbreaking. I have to look at my notes here, but we had groundbreaking August of '85. And the building was built, and we had a community open house in February of '86. We opened our doors. And as we opened our doors for a look-see, we were recruiting people to become volunteers. And we offered classes, 5-week classes. Now, a lot of volunteers in the community had volunteer time, and they were intrigued by this television that they could produce. And there were people in our community who worked in the business. And that was a real asset because people came to our studio who were DGA, they were directors, they were in the guilds, they worked for Ross Roy Communications, they were writers.
Oh, we still get them wandering in
Yeah.
after people have retired from NBC or WDIV. You know, they come in, and it's a different environment where they can offer some of their skill and their talent and to train the next generation. And, you know, the time that you're talking about as far as volunteering, I mean, I was volunteering. I was in high school in the late 80s. And, you know, at the time you needed a floor director and, 3 camera operators and all that was going on in the control room. And these days we don't need those kind of volunteers because we have robotic cameras.
Yeah.
So things have
Yeah.
certainly evolved. And at the time when you were building, it was not, you didn't have the garage.
No,
right?
no, there was
Okay.
no garage. We had a remote truck, and we parked it across the street in the road department.
Okay. And so was the truck, was it Bloomfield Township or was it the BACB
It was
truck?
Bloomfield Township. We
Okay.
hadn't entered into an agreement with
That was when Leslie
Birmingham.
came,
Yes,
right?
that
Okay.
was a little later. But volunteers, we would have maybe 20 in a class. They would run 5 weeks. We wouldn't wait until 5 weeks, but we'd get them volunteering after the first week, the second week, and reinforcing their skills. So we had a nice volunteer base, and it was very different than nowadays because it was all volunteer. Our staff was very small, maybe 4 people, 5 people at most.
That's pretty big. Yeah. Right now it's there's four full-time staff right now. I'm sorry. Continue.
So-
go ahead.
In the early days, there's pictures over there of Dr. Swift, who was an educator in Wayne Wesleyan schools, and he had a global connection show, and he had all kinds of connections. He was very established. Think globally, act locally, he said at the end of every show. But he brought in all kinds of people, and many of them were residents in our community who were authorities and global issues.
And I think at the time, people, it's hard to understand now how incredible it was for people in your local community to be able to tell these stories in a way that, now you can just get out your phone and tell the story and publish it to, maybe not everybody's watching, but anybody can do that themselves. Whereas in, the infancy of cable, the heyday of cable, you couldn't do this. And there were even, do you remember the ACE Awards?
Oh, yeah.
So the ACE Awards, that was just cable specific because there were so many shows going on at the time.
Yeah.
So
The other thing is, I brought an original channel card from Booth Communications. We had 67 channels that the cable company was going to offer us, and the cable bill was $22 back in
Yes.
the day. So this was like in the
And people are like, what
Early-
am I paying $22 for?
nobody has a cable bill like that. As
Right,
cable
sure.
companies, Booth, of course, was bought by Continental Cable, which we know is Xfinity, but everything is just escalated and more national, and it's because we have all the sports channels in the sports package.
There's hundreds of channels
Yeah.
now, right?
Yeah.
Leslie, talk to me about your background, because you brought something new to the station with community relations. So where were you before you started as director here?
Well, you're right. It was like two different jobs. From what Nadine did and then transitioning to my time here. I worked at the community house in Birmingham in community relations, and as such, I had a seat on what was then the cable management board, we're calling it, for Bloomfield Township. So I got to know what was going, so I was aware of cable's growth and its institutionalization here in Bloomfield.
Yeah.
But I was not hands-on with it at all. Nadine was an expert in the equipment and so forth. I had much more of a community relations background, using programming and just showcasing Bloomfield Township. But it was much broader. I started newsletters for Bloomfield Township. There were newsletters before me, but when I came, we put them on a very regular schedule, and they were, it was a different form. And the web, all of a sudden, people were realizing that we needed a website, that the internet wasn't just a passing phase,
Yeah.
and we would need to establish a website. So it's things like that that I became more involved in township-wide.
Right. And the website, I mean, I it's funny because there were files from, 30 years ago when I showed up here, and we did need to make some room, but I was finding old website contracts and how they were pulling all that together. And now it's just, it's things happen so much more quickly, and we're managing so many other things with the app that was developed and social media sites, and just there's never an end to
It's a changing landscape, and it continues to roll along.
Right.
And you have to look forward for those things.
Yeah.
But so there was a shift in emphasis between Nadine's time here and my time here. So I was more involved in township activities as a whole. One of the highlights was the Ryder Cup came along. And that was really an exciting time because it showcased Bloomfield Township. We needed to establish that we were Bloomfield Township, not Bloomfield Hills.
Sure. I think people are still confused. So
They
it
are
took me
still
a couple of years to
confused.
get
I know.
used
They
to it.
still don't quite know where they live. But
Tell me about the contract with the BACB, because we didn't always work with. So we always, from the beginning, I think we started with Bloomfield Hills because they were so small.
Yes.
But then we added the 4 communities. So how did that even happen?
And that's kind of how I came to be known to Bloomfield Township, because I taught at Cranbrook for 15 years and taught the daughters and sons of some of the Bloomfield Hills officials. So they knew that we were doing a lot of video out of Cranbrook and a lot of film. So that's how I came to be invited, because Bloomfield Hills
Sure.
was in the package.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. BACB contract.
yeah, it seemed very apparent to me so much of our programming came from Birmingham or Beverly Hills or Franklin. We were in that community, but they weren't a part of us at that
Sure.
time. And it just seemed we had the studio, we had the production truck, we had the staff, and they didn't have that, yet they had the programming. So it seemed like a natural fit that we should be working together. And I remember proposing the idea and took the administration a little bit of time to think about that. And then they said, okay, go with it. And we developed a good relationship with the BACB.
Yes. Well, and I think that, all the smaller communities are looking at ways that they can combine the assets that they have. And
We need to.
Work together. And I know our police station, we do the dispatch for Franklin Village. So, it just makes sense.
It makes
to be able to
sense.
support each other where we can. So
Because the township doesn't really have a downtown area, we did a lot of programming at the community house. We were in and out of there every week. The concerts in the park from the very beginning with June Taylor McGregor. We would do the parades, programming, and our Bloomfield residents were very much a part of the Birmingham Bloomfield. So
Sure.
it was a natural.
The concert band,
Yeah.
Dave Falvey and
The Birmingham Music Hall. There were all kinds of programming that we were doing for years. So it was a perfect marriage.
Yeah, the other communities didn't have this facility and the structures
Right.
that were put in place under
Sure.
Nadine. Yeah.
Sure. I think the other thing that happened when you were here was you going to Washington, D.C. about the funding, because it just is this ongoing discussion between the federal, the states manage everything a little bit differently, and why do we fund an organization like this? And what was going on at that time that you had to go to? You said you went with Dave Payne?
Yeah,
Okay.
Dave Payne was supervisor then, and he and I went and spoke to Congressman Dingell at that point, who was very interested in this and wanted to keep this funding strong for us. And I think it was eventually 2007 that the Cable Act was passed for us, that secured that funding.
Right.
So we could provide these media services.
Yes, secured the funding for capital expenses. But
Yeah.
I think now what we're trying to do is, each state does it a little bit different, but the funding has not kept up with technology. And as people are not subscribing to cable anymore, anyone that's listening to me, this is like ad nauseum, I say all this, but now with all the streaming, that's where they need to attach the fees to that so that we continue to stay funded. And I think when they update the funding, they're going to help pay for all of our operating costs too, not just capital costs. So, tell me what other kind of people were coming in here. What do you have a favorite host
I
or
have
guest?
all kinds of favorites. We really had and kept producers. There were some show producers that started under Nadine. Then I got to know them, and now you do.
I know, right?
Yeah, they've
Yes.
been with us
Long
that
time.
Long time.
Yeah, and their programming is solid. It brings in thinkers, local leaders, and what's happening in the world, and bringing it here to share with the rest of us. Let's see, what were some of the names? David Falvey, Jonathan Swift, June McGregor, as you mentioned. Some of our other lines, Cindy Keynes, yeah. Oh,
Shelley Fortuna, Henry Gornbein.
Dr. Prasad.
Dr. Prasad.
She's still here.
Yeah.
And her daughter picked up and is doing a show. She started a
good.
show a couple years ago.
Yeah, a
so-
medical show or medical issues. So they cover, and with Henry Gornbein's law,
Yeah.
practical law, so we can make those timely subjects, thoughts on those timely subjects available now locally. It's really, it's
And we ran a television station. We would start at 9 o'clock in the morning with Sandy's Fitness Firm. Sandy Nolenberg, who still lives
Right.
in the community, was one of our first shows. And we would start at 9 and we'd run till about 10 o'clock at night. And we'd take a break in the afternoon. Nobody's watching afternoon TV. But we ran a schedule every single day.
Live television.
On our channel
You were doing
11.
was it live?
No,
Okay,
it was all
okay.
playback. The other thing we did is when they came in to do the aerobics show,
Yeah.
they would do 3 shows in one day. They would bring in 3 sets of leotards and change after every show, take a little break, and we'd put 3 in the can. The same way with our children's show. Our children's show, the director came to us from Channel 7. He directed the news at Channel 7, and he established our kids show. And we worked with the Christian Communication Council, and they were active in wanting to do this. And they brought very diverse kids into the studio. And in those days, we always made sure that on camera we had black, white, and other. And we would do, all kinds of, not Sesame Street, but take up a different theme each time.
Deedle doors.
Yep. And then that show also aired on Channel 56. They picked up the rights to it. And Sandy's Fitness Firm was picked up on 56 and also was not broadcast, but aired in Canada. So some of our shows we shared and had agreements. We got a little bit of money from it, but it wasn't about the money. It was the accolades. For the
and
producer.
just being able to share the stories that are happening on a broader audience. So, so Leslie, you were here till 2013, and then after 2013, you retired. So you've been retired. So what have you been doing in your retirement?
Retirement's a good thing.
Is it?
I loved working here, just for all the reasons we've been talking about. There were challenges. There was just a lot of just fun watching the programs come together. But retirement's a good thing.
It is good.
I have 10 grandchildren to keep up
Wow.
with, so that's a lot. I'm active at my church in Birmingham, and some other projects. So it's a busy time.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing.
Well, good. What about you, Nadine? What have you been doing? You went on to a different. You went on to
Mercy.
That's
Mercy
right.
High School. I left here and retired, but I'm a township retiree. And I live in the township, so I get to watch the programming and enjoy seeing the guys and girls at work all the time.
Right, yes.
So, but I went on to Mercy High School to be their director of development in marketing and a lot of fundraising for a private school. So that was another whole career, another story. But I'm retired now and
hanging out at the senior center.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Enjoying life.
Well, good. I do want to mention that after, so we are 3 of the 5 directors that I guess have been here, that have been supervising. So Greg Kowalski came in 2013 to 2020, and he was more of a newspaper person. So I guess he picked up on your newsletter, and he really dove into the community relations part. And he was, I think, what is the car thing? What am I blanking on? The Dream Cruise. Like the Dream Cruise, because I found many files about the Dream Cruise. So
I have to tell you about that. Yeah, that was a big thing. So we geared up for that. I sat on the Dream Cruise board, and every community that has frontage on Woodward, it was involved in it. And we ended up with a really fun event. We had our music and food and all that, a fun event on Woodward. And so we were a presence at the Woodward Dream Cruise.
Yes.
So that was just another thing of joining other communities in their, in their development, their services. It was just a fun thing to be a part of.
Yeah. And then in 2021, it was during COVID time, and Greg Kowalski retired, and he was replaced by interim director Greg Black, who still works here as the operations manager and does community relations and cable related stuff. But that was a really interesting time during COVID. So they added many more of the township meetings so that they could be broadcast because people couldn't attend in person. And I think people, they wanted that local they wanted to know what was going on in their community, since that's where you were kind of stuck.
And filming local meetings became more and more important. Bloomfield Township is now doing it. They didn't when other communities were doing it because they didn't feel the need. But then, as you said, things change, and there is a need to show those meetings, and that became kind of the bread and butter.
Yeah. Well, and I think that people sometimes forget there's a lot of people that don't leave their homes, or they can't leave their homes, and that this is a way to provide them connected to the community. And when they go and vote, they understand what the issues are and all of those things. So
not only was producing the programs fun, but a lot of those people, nowadays we would call them influencers. They were early influencers. It was kind of a time of pioneering cable television, but I was very proud of the fact that not only did they work so hard and we got professional people in here doing pro bono and improving the quality of the shows, but we started out, our open house was in 86. By 88, we had produced, in 88, we had produced 280 programs. The following year, we had produced 395. We kept growing in the number, often because we were doing 3 or 4 in the can, putting them in the can on a day. It was more time efficient.
Right.
But we won awards. We entered competitions, and we Philo T. Farnsworth Awards, NAACP. We won various awards. We were nominated for an Emmy 2 or 3 times, Emmy nominations with the Academy of Television. I mean, so we were very proud to be an award-winning studio, and I'm happy that you continue that today. I hear about the awards that are being earned by the station,
Yes.
so it's still very high quality.
Well, thank you. I think the one, we've won several over the last couple of years. One was the recent one was for the community producer who did the Franklin show, but the one that I feel like it was the I don't know, because I was really brought in to kind of bring us, I guess, into the way things are done today with social media and distribution on multiple platforms and meeting people where they want to view the content. And we won the same award. It wasn't like the top award, but it was still a recognition. And we were, for the work that we did for the police department, a recruiting campaign. And it was a website that we had built to put all the content on. And it was also along with, we were on par with the city of Los Angeles, which I was like, given the resources that the city of Los Angeles has and that we were able to get the same kind of recognition, I was so proud of us because that was just, it just shows that, we're on the right track to doing what we're supposed to be doing.
That's so important. And showcasing Bloomfield Township is a wonderful thing to be doing. I mean, Bloomfield Township is a great place to live and to work and to visit and to show the different services and how they're developed, how they perform every day for our residents.
Right.
So that's a great opportunity.
It has been, definitely.
Yeah.
Any final words for us? What do you want to leave people with? I know there's so many stories to tell. It's hard to know.
Well, when Greg Black asked me if I would do this interview and said we're celebrating 40 years, it was hard for me to believe that 40 years ago we were just beginning, groundbreaking and selecting contractor and outfitting a studio and studying. In those days, they were tube cameras. Everything was big and heavy and bulky, and to see how far we've come to digital and everything being...
Well, remember, half of the office space was taken up by those old tapes.
Yeah.
The
three-quarter inch.
Yes.
Yeah, and we had
three-quarter
shelves
inch
and
format.
shelves in that staff area that was all, looks like the stacks in a library.
Right.
So keeping up with the different technologies is an important thing to be able to do.
Now it's all in these hard drives in the cloud. And so then
Yeah.
our IT director will come talk to me and be like, Carrie, when are you going to delete some stuff? Because, you have to pay for all this. So we paid for the tapes, the physical tapes before, and now we pay for it in the storage capacity that we have. So it's just hard. We're producing. I think that we were just going through a review and we were looking at the shows, and I think it was like almost 800.
Wow.
But a show now, I think we were talking earlier in that they don't all have to be 30-minute programs anymore. Now we're doing like a 7-minute package or a 2-minute package, or we're experimenting with shorter videos like that. So the meetings that we're doing so many more meetings. We just had others that are added in the other communities. So it's just it's busy.
And I think we need to recognize the staff in all this.
Absolutely,
You are,
for sure.
starting
Yes.
with you. I mean, you're instituting this change to meet the audience where they are. I thought that was a good way to put it. But I remember, I think you brought Steve Rhoda on as an intern.
And 27 years later, he's
Yeah,
still,
right.
he's still
So
here.
when I came in, I could see how good he was. And
Yes.
we made him part of the full-time staff. Jim Gillis was here. You'll remember
Yes,
Jim. And David Sommerfeld Jr. was here.
He retired after 25 years,
Yeah.
close,
Yeah.
I think. So
And James Drum.
James is
was-
still
yep,
here.
Yep. And then we brought in Joe Maringer to keep us all on track.
yeah,
Yeah, the staff has been so good, and now we operate our BACB contract with a lot of part-time staff. So right now we have 4 full-time staff here in the cable and community relations, and 20 part-time
Part-time.
staff.
Yeah, and Greg Black.
And Greg Black.
So I
yes.
think that.
Yeah,
Yeah. But
and
they-
how many years has Greg been here now?
I think he's 15. They're
Yeah,
putting it
he
up on
was-
the screen
he was-
now.
And I remember encouraging him to do an internship here. He wanted to be a screenwriter, and he's got strong writing background.
Yes, yes.
But I said, Greg, you're never going to be a screenwriter. You got to go to L.A. or New York.
Yeah,
I said, what
right,
about
right.
an internship and learning all aspects of television? So it was unpaid, and then when an opening came,
Yes.
he's been on board ever since.
Yeah,
So-
he was coming on as I was leaving. And Steve Rhoda and I still meet for lunch occasionally. I mean, he's just a good, solid guy.
yeah.
Well, we did celebrate Steve. Last year we created a Heart of the Community Award, and since Steve has been here so long, we were able to recognize
Oh,
him
I'm
with
so
that
glad.
award.
Yeah.
And we gave to a community producer in kind of recognition of Community Media Day, which is October 20th, that celebrates freedom of speech in all the different forms that it has. So that's one of the things that
Good.
we've started to do here. So
That's
In
a good thing.
October-
Keep it going.
thank you.
October 21st, 1983 was when the franchise agreement was signed. So the day after Media Day. And that was signed with Booth Communications, and both the township and the city of Bloomfield Hills wanted a local company, and they were represented by the Booth family in our area, and they went with a smaller company. So, yeah,
Well,
long time ago.
yes, much has happened and things have changed and things will continue to change as we continue to evolve here. So,
Well, having been involved 40 years, Carrie, I have to tell you how proud I am of you and of the station. I've stayed close to the guys. You know, I pop in. I'm a resident, so I can pop in any old
right.
time
Yeah.
and see what's going on. And I watch the programming, but I'm so proud to see the way that you've grown and you've built the garage, this podcasting studio 2 summers ago, and you've really changed with the times.
Thank
and
you.
That's been great.
thank you. I appreciate that. Any final words, Leslie? No.
No, it's been a pleasure to be here.
Right. Yes. Thank you. It's been a delight to talk to you both and hear about the history of the studio. And thank you so much for coming in to celebrate with us. Thank you all, and we'll see you next time on Coffee with Carrie. Keep watching.